Hello and welcome to episode 5. This is, I don't know why it changed that. We are actually talking about the differences between a CPA, an accountant, and a bookkeeper. Let me remind all of you that you need to enable StreamYard. If you want to make any comments at all, if you want to interact, this is what you have to do. Otherwise, StreamYard will not allow you to. So before we get started, I would love for my viewers to introduce themselves, if at all possible. So I am Lisa Culverwell. I am the owner of Miss Elsie's Bookkeeping. Some people call me Miss Lisa. Others call me Miss Elsie. It just depends on your preference. I tell everybody why I do this every single time, just so that people always know I actually do this. I don't have the StreamYard link on here. This is okay. There should be 3 little dots on the bottom of the video. Click on the 3 dots and I actually just got your comment. So are you able to see the video? Okay, so anyway, I do this every week as a free offering to people that may not have the money to bring on a bookkeeper. Hi, hon, it's my husband chiming in. So many people simply don't have the money or the means, especially right now with COVID, to afford a bookkeeper, let alone a CPA. And they choose to do it themselves as the owners in hopes of saving money, which when I talk with my clients and let them know that that's not always the best option, just because it gets very costly very quickly. So because of that, I want to ensure that you know how to do it. So if you're going to do your own bookkeeping, I would much rather you have some tips on how to do it. This is only for management purposes. This is not to make any major decisions on your business, to go global or to expand or get a loan or anything like that. That is way beyond what we're talking about. This is just so that you can know what your business is doing and to be able to keep track of everything effectively. So we always do a bit of review before we get into the meat and potatoes of the video. So if you remember correctly, last week's video was on the different stages of bookkeeping. And let's see here. I can click on the right video. We're just going to touch base on this. And let me share my screen. Okay, so real quick, the different stages of bookkeeping. Got so many things on my screens here. Okay, so, and of course that means we get to go through all of the animations again. So we've got collections, the collection of all of the data. We've got the processing of the data and the reporting of the data. Now, if you remember correctly, collection of the data is that this is the gathering of everything. It's the gathering of every single piece of information that you need, that you have. All of the documentation, all of the paperwork. This could be bills from your vendors. This could be invoices that you're sending out to your customers or clients. This could be your payroll. For the purposes of what we're going through right now, we're going to stick with bills from vendors. It's the easiest to understand. And we'll be getting into billing at a later date. Billing for right now is a little bit too complex for what we're talking about. So what we're doing, and same for payroll. So what we're doing is we're collecting all information from other sources in order to form that picture, in order to have everything readily available for entry. You can, in order to do all of this, you are entering information on this piece of paper. You're writing information down. You're highlighting information. Remember, always highlight your invoice number, your date, the date of the invoice, the date that your invoice is due, your net terms. Your net terms, if you remember correctly, is it's that little code that tells you that your bill is due in this amount of days. And if it says something crazy like net 22% 10, then that means it's due in 20 days. But if you pay it within 10 days, you'll get a 2% discount. You also want to highlight your amount due. You want to highlight your vendor name and specifically your address of the vendor, because your vendor address could change and you might not know it. So you could be sending a payment to them in the mail to a PO box that they just closed, and suddenly the mail, for whatever reason, may not be forwarding to their new street address. And then they may never get your check. So you always want to make sure that you get your address in the system correctly. You want to collect all of your receipts, any statements that you might have that might give you helpful information. Your examples. This is an example. Again, this is quickly. We've got to get through it really quick in order to get through the rest. I have circled every single thing that needs to be highlighted. The only thing I did not circle is this right here. And what this is, although it does not say net 30 or anything like that, it does tell you that there is a 0% discount. So to me, that would say, okay, it's due in 30 days. Of course, it doesn't give an address here. This is actually, it's not an American invoice, obviously. So, but that's neither here nor there. So moving on, we've got processing. This is the series of actions or steps taken in order to achieve a particular end. We process the information from what you've collected in order to form that picture. So you have gone from collecting the information and making sure that everything on your paperwork is highlighted, that you've got your code. We in the accounting world, we call them codes. GL codes is what we call them. It's your category. So for instance, if you just purchase something from Office Depot, that might be an office supply. That is your code. So you want to make sure that's written on your invoice as well, so that you know exactly where it's going. Now that you've got everything collected and everything highlighted and written down, and you always, I recommend always doing that. Next is actually entering the information. And entering all of this into QuickBooks is pretty simple once you get used to it. It's just a matter of entering every single thing that you've highlighted. And here is your very quick example. This is actually a bill. It's not an invoice from a vendor. This is an invoice to a customer. So I know that this isn't completely correct, but this gives you kind of a pretty good example of what it's going to look like. The only difference is instead of a product and service, you're actually going to have your GL code or your category right here. And finally, the reporting. And the reporting is extremely important because it's that picture that you have just prepared so much for in order to get all of the information in. These reports are what you need in order to know exactly what your business is doing. And of course, I had actually put QuickBooks Online up so that you could actually see that. You could see the example of a report, and we'll actually get into those reports another time and actually go into detail with them. Okay, so the meat and potatoes. What we're talking about again is the differences between a CPA, an accountant, and a bookkeeper. And there we go. Share my screen again. Okay, differences between a CPA, accountant, and bookkeeper. We've already gone through our review. So what is a CPA? So a CPA is a certified public accountant. They are required to be licensed with the state that they're in. That is not an option not to be licensed in order to be a CPA. They do have to go through some very extensive testing. Think of the bar exam for an accountant, and that's pretty much what they're up against. What a CPA does is they handle complex situations. This can be tax situations, accounting. Some handle financial planning, depending on the state. In Texas, they actually allow them to do financial planning, so quite a few of them do that here. A fun fact is that here in the state of Texas, it's illegal to represent yourself as a bookkeeper if you're a CPA, and vice versa. So think of impersonations. It's illegal to impersonate a police officer, for example. That's the way it is here. So I or a CPA can actually be shut down for just calling ourselves something that we aren't. So if I call myself an accountant when I'm a bookkeeper, I can get in a lot of trouble. So I was shocked when I found out about that when we moved here a few months ago. What is an accountant? An accountant is basically the same thing as a CPA, except they're not licensed by the state. Therefore, they cannot call themselves a CPA. They can't give themselves the initials or the label of a CPA. They do handle complex situations. They may handle tax. They do accounting. They can do bookkeeping. In some states, like Texas, you must be licensed to be an accountant, just like what we were talking about. So here in Texas, you have CPA and you have bookkeeper. There is no in between. There are so many other states. California, you can be an accountant. You do not have to be licensed. Things are much more stringent there when it comes to becoming licensed to be a tax preparer. So here in Texas, I do not have to be licensed to be a tax preparer. However, I do have to pass a course, which I am actually a little over halfway through right now, and just actually passed my midterms today. So I am just, I'm ecstatic over that. I was really stressing out over it. So it just depends on the state that you're in. Another fun fact, as bookkeepers, we must have a disclosure statement on all of our websites. They're all supposed to say, I'm not an accountant and I take no assurances as such. Now, in the state of Texas, we actually have, I don't know if it's part of the state or if it's an organization, I really don't know, but there are people that have put out bots specifically targeting websites like mine, looking for anyone that may have the word accountant in their website without that disclosure. And what happens is if they find one like that, then we get sent a lot of letters telling us that we're not compliant. And next thing you know is after, I don't know, 5-10 letters of them threatening us, they finally tell us that they're shutting us down and we can no longer practice. So at least not in the state of Texas. And from what I understand, the state of Texas is probably one of the most stringent states when it comes to how you can practice accounting versus bookkeeping and taxes. And finally, what is a bookkeeper? So a bookkeeper is, as we have gone through, is not a CPA. It is not an accountant. A bookkeeper does, well, we're the paper pushers. And I hate that term, but it's true. We deal with all of the data entry. We deal with all the paper. We deal with getting all of the receipts and getting everything entered. So we can become licensed, but our title is different. So instead of being a CPA or a certified public accountant, we can become a certified public bookkeeper or a CPB. And that requires a lot of money. It requires a lot of study and training and tests. I don't believe it's anywhere near as bad as what I called, the bar exam for accountants. But you do have to maintain CPE credits every single year. A CPE credit is courses that you have to take in order to get credits to go towards maintaining your license. And all of that, what all of that means is we know the latest and greatest information about the subject. We've gone through the training, we've gone through the testing. We know all updates that are happening. Kind of like with taxes. Once I pass this, I will have to take CPE credits every single year in order to maintain my certification. Because every single year, I need to make sure that I am always abreast of the newest tax laws out there. So anything that changes at all with expenses or with what can be written off, I need to know. We can prepare taxes. However, it's a little bit different. A CPA, when they file taxes, they can do it in paper if they want to. For a bookkeeper here, we cannot. We can only do e-file preparation, which isn't a problem because the IRS is actually now starting to penalize all accountants and tax preparers that are doing everything in paper because they don't want to do anything in paper anymore. They want to do everything through e-file. So they're completely wiping out the paper going forward, and they're only doing e-filing from now on. I don't know when all of this will be set in stone and the paper will be eliminated, but it is happening. As a bookkeeper, we cannot do accounting, as stated many times. Alana, I know you said, wow, which part are you amazed about? Is that the IRS? Okay, so moving on. Again, we cannot do accounting. And accounting, Accounting and bookkeeping are basically, they're almost the same thing. Bookkeepers and accountants, it used to be that a bookkeeper, think of the 1950s, where the man went to work and the wife stayed home. So the man went off to work, he made all of the money. The wife stayed home, she did all the cooking, the cleaning, taking care of the kids, all of that. Basically, that's kind of the way that it used to be with bookkeeping and accounting, whereas the man of the house would have, yes, can only do e-file. Yeah, that's actually what my instructor was telling me a couple of weeks ago. We can only do e-file, and that's the way it's going to end up being probably really soon for everybody. So yeah, think of that as the man that went home went to work every single day. That was the CPA. The person that was at home cooking, cleaning, taking care of the kids, that was the bookkeeper. But it was basic, very, very, very basic. So please don't, I don't mean to offend anyone if I am. That's not the intention, definitely. But back then it was the bookkeeper would only do, they'd pay the bills, they'd receive the money. They wouldn't even do payroll. There were so many things that they weren't doing because the CPA would be doing all of that. Now the CPA and the bookkeeper do almost the identical things. The difference is that, a CPA handles all of the really complex stuff, most amortization, most depreciation, most tax situations, things like that bookkeepers really don't want to have to deal with anyway. We as bookkeepers, we can work with clients in person or virtually. Doesn't have to be one or the other. As a CPA, it's a little bit more difficult. In my opinion, it's a little bit more difficult to do things virtually, I think, because they're having to deal more with the person face to face. And once I start filing taxes, that may be the same way as well. But in order to work on somebody's books, to get them their accurate financials, I don't have to be with them at all. There's so many things online now, so many ways that you can send and receive information, and confidential ways that it makes it so easy to exchange the information and for me to be able to do what needs to be done for my clients. We do a wide range of basic bookkeeping to full charge bookkeeping. So the basic bookkeeping, that's what I was talking about for the 1950s. Basic bookkeeping, your paying of bills, your accounts receivables. Now, in my experience right now, many clients actually don't want the payables, the paying of bills, and the receiving of money. They want to keep their hands on that sort of thing because it's easier for them. Some of them still do, quite a few do. Full charge would be everything. It would be payables, receivables, payroll, working on the financials, month-end close, all kinds. It's every single thing that happens during the month. And depending on the industry, there's even more than anything that I just listed. Again, bookkeepers, we handle all data entry. And many CPAs actually outsource their bookkeeping. So here in Texas, if you're a CPA, if you are by yourself, You cannot, by law, do bookkeeping. You have to either outsource or you have to refer out. The only way that a CPA can do bookkeeping is if they become a firm and they have a bookkeeper that they have hired as an employee. That's the only way that they can do bookkeeping under their name. But still, the CPA themselves, they're still not allowed to do the bookkeeping. So I rely on CPAs to come to me sometimes and say, hey, I've got this complex bookkeeping situation. They're 2 years behind, whatever. I need your help. I don't have the time. I don't have a bookkeeper. I can't do it. So that's what a lot of us bookkeepers do, and that's the difference between a CPA, an accountant, and a bookkeeper. So does anybody at all have any questions? Alana, I know that you had some questions. Yes, we can do in-house bookkeeping. Obviously, it requires geographical distance. It needs to be close. But yeah, as bookkeepers, we can actually go to the place of business and do the bookkeeping there. It actually makes it pretty simple because all their records are right there, versus having to transfer any sort of documents electronically. So absolutely, in-house bookkeeping, yes. Did you have any other questions? I know you had some questions earlier. Well, if not, obviously this video will remain up with comments. Take notes. Oh, which one of the 3 titles can do all 3 jobs? That would be, oh, that's actually a tough one. I would say individually, none of them. A CPA can if they're a firm and they have everybody under one roof. So they can do the advanced stuff, they can do the financial planning if they wish to, and depending on the state that allows, they can do all of the taxes if they wish. That's up to them. And the bookkeeping can happen as long as they have a bookkeeper under their roof. So I would say a bookkeeping firm, not an individual. An individual cannot do all 3, unfortunately. So again, this will be up for as long as the internet will allow it to be. And please, if you have any further questions, if you have notes that you need clarification on, whatever, please reach out to me. I am always available. I do have a YouTube channel, and the latest video is always on my website. Thank you for coming, Alana. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to many more questions. And I didn't even realize I still had that on. So yeah, please visit my YouTube channel. It's got all of the videos on there. I upload them as soon as I am done recording them. So they're always up to date. I try to keep the latest one on my website on the events tab. And I do have a calendar with all of my live videos. So once I am past this tax course, December 2nd is actually my final day, my final class. I will be going from 1 video a week to 3. So I will be going every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night at the same time, 7 p.m. Central Time. I believe it's under Miss Elsie's bookkeeping. Let me double check here. Oh, and of course, it doesn't want to work for me. For whatever reason, YouTube doesn't want to load. Yeah, I believe it's under Miss Elsie's bookkeeping. So try there, and I'll get with you on Facebook here in a little bit as soon as I get access to YouTube, as soon as it allows me to. So I think that is it for the evening. Next week, we will be having another live video series in the DIY bookkeeping. And this will be series number 6. When is it good to hire a CPA? So, and then at the week after that, we're actually not going to have a video because of Thanksgiving. So we are coming into the holiday season where things are going to start coming down for just a little bit. So I will see all of you next week. I hope that you have a wonderful week, a wonderful weekend, and God bless.